Hello, everyone. Welcome to Next Big Future. I have my good friend Randy Kirk with me. We're going to talk Robotaxi and what Tesla Robotaxi means for Uber, because it's a huge thing. It's almost going to be here. There's a paid service coming in June, so we need to discuss that topic. So, firstly, I'll have a little brag for myself. On the prediction website Metaculus, if you can see down here in the bottom left corner, I rank eighth out of over 34,000 people who are making predictions, public predictions about all kinds of things. Very little Tesla because, just fewer questions out of the thousands of questions, more, politics, business, technology, all kinds of stuff. So this little thing there that, I'm top
So,
among
so
many people.
Brian, you'd
Yeah.
already been a fairly high ranked player, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
It
But
was.
number eight, that's kind of like
Yeah.
a whole nother level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm in the, like in that top 10. So so in terms of Robotaxi, so Daniel Negreanu, poker pro, so not someone like a Holmar who's looking at FSD stuff all the time. He's also Canadian. He over 5,000 followers. He said he had a 40-minute drive, no touching of any controls or wheel at any point. He said Tesla's over a decade. The recent upgrade is truly next level. So more normal people, even though the celebrities, are saying, "Hey, this stuff is fantastic and great for it, and a huge difference." Before I go into the Uber stuff, so all of the Fremont cars that are made by Tesla, of which there are about 1,500 to 2,000 per day, they're all driving from um, near the factory, uh, even through darkness, avoiding forklifts and like that, and then parking by the loading dock. And there's stop signs. It's 1.2 miles. There's stop signs. There's other traffic. There's people, workers walking around. And so it's legit, no human driver moving 1.2 miles. So about like 2,000 miles per day, 60,000 miles per month. And once the other, Austin, Berlin, Shanghai factories start doing the same thing, you're looking at three times the current level, so that would be 6,000 miles per day, um, 180,000 miles per month. And then there's also the activity of automatic smart summon, where you're calling the car from up to 85 meters away to either go park itself or to come to you. Again, no human driver in the car. And that, by my calculation, I did a survey of people on ESC, and 30 to 40% of the people who have FSD use it multiple times per day, right? So in terms of how many miles we're getting on this thing, we're having thousands of cars by Tesla, and then 100,000 cars from regular folks doing these shorter, no human in the car drives.
Now,
So,
Brian,
yeah,
you could add to that. They've got some cyber cabs down in Austin that are driving around that track all day long,
right,
and they're making it like an obstacle course. They're changing where the cones are and changing where the stop signs are and putting obstacles in the way and whatnot.
right.
I don't know how many vehicles, but it's not like three. It's like, you know,
Probably hundreds,
15.
because there was already the 20 or 40 that were at the Robotaxi event.
Right. And
Right.
so quite a few, at least we know that are doing that. Then in
Mhm.
addition to that, we've got the people in Fremont that are doing what I would call faux unsupervised drives. So you've got a guy in the seat, but his instructions are, you only take over if you're going to die. I
Right.
don't know if that's his instruction exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, it's like a faux
Right.
unsupervised. Yeah.
So and then we have also employees being driven with safety drivers,
Right.
right? And like I said, all those people, home are those people saying, "Hey, I'm not touching the wheels,
Right.
I'm not touching the pedals.
Right.
I'm there, but I don't have to touch it." Right?
Right.
So there's a lot of clean drives are happening.
Yeah,
So
and
that goes to, yeah,
you must have had a lot of clean drives. I don't even drive that much, and I've had hundreds and hundreds of miles of zip zero, never touching the wheel. I mean, the last three drives I've been on, I never, and they were They were, when I say last three, the last six, to San Diego twice and
Right.
back. It's 90 miles each way, and to West LA, which is about 65 twice.
Right.
None of those drives did I ever touch the wheel.
Right. No wheels, no pedals. So
No wheels, no pedals.
so
Never have.
basically it's getting to that point of, what's the percentage of those things that are happening? And, if they can happen a lot in San Francisco and Austin, or like the California and Texas, where they're looking to do the rollout. And that goes to what people are debating. We debated this, discussed it a bit on the video with Herbert, where it was you, me, Herbert, Brian White, discussing how fast is that rollout. And I'm saying that it will be quite fast. Me, as a top 8 out of 34,000
Predictor.
predictor, is saying that it's going to be high, right? But being a predictor, I'm precise in saying it will be, initially, it could be some lower number, right? On the first day, they could say, okay, 100, 500, whatever. But within 30 days, that 2,000 to 5,000, and then, scaling up from there, because they can always constrain the zone where it's, um,
Allowed to drive. Yeah.
2 miles by 2 miles, a 4 square mile area, which is what um, uh, Uber did. Sorry, no, Waymo did,
They would
right?
do.
Where they constrained initially to a very tiny area in Phoenix, tiny area, wherever. So Tesla could choose just to launch that way, run it for a couple of weeks, and then expand, right? And start with fewer cars. But my thinking is, within 30 days, worst case 60 days, they will have, you know, 2,000 in each city, and they will expand to multiple cities. Like they're talking to Palo Alto in the Bay Area, other places that they will be able to have high confidence that they can do this kind of rollout with large numbers.
Right.
Because they say they're going to get to all over the United States and probably Canada, um, next year with the entire network fleet of cars, which 500,000 to a million cars. And then next year, 2026, when supposedly they can make, towards the 2 million cybercabs, right?
Mhm.
So we're looking at the potential to have 2 million some vehicles. So that has an impact on Uber, which will now go over that Uber slide. So what does that mean for Uber? So here's Uber's full year 2024 revenue. So they had 11 billion trips, that first line, 11,273, but that's in millions. So 11 billion trips. Um, of those, about a little less than half are moving people around, and then half are moving, or is in the range. Half are moving people, half are moving deliveries, Uber Eats, freight, other things like that. Um, Gross bookings, which is paying the total money you're paying them, of which they'll have to pay driver, pay other things. So that's 162 billion, right? And then revenue is just shy of 44 billion. So that's the money that goes to Uber, the
Mm.
60 cents per mile and other things that they get for revenue. Um, and then their income from operations 2.8 billion. So their net income is far higher, but if you read the thing down below, it's $6.4 billion from some tax valuation release,
Mhm.
$1.8 billion from some revaluation of equity investments, which are not anything. Again, those are those one-off that have nothing to do with how profitable you are. So their profitability, 2.8 billion off of 44 billion, is like, 7% of the whole number.
Yeah.
So
So you're saying that the 2 billion, I kind of I lost track a little bit. I'm sorry. I
yeah,
was thinking ahead and I
sure.
lost track. Did they actually have an operating profit?
Yes, they did.
Or-
2.8,
So
$2.8
okay.
billion operating profit.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is, if, there's, and let's say they grow, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
grew from last year, grew from this year. So they go to 6 billion this year,
Right.
right? Although they'll start having some competition, but not necessarily at scale till we get to next
Hmm.
year.
Hmm.
So, um, if someone's undercutting them across their territories, right? 10, 20%, that means their profits are gone, right? If they cut their prices that much, the company went on. there could be some wiggle room around that because, you know, certain places, cities, New York, other places could have better margins. The US could have better margins because this is across the world. The US is 60% of their money, but probably more of their profitability. So, maybe it takes more than that. But, 20, 30% price decrease, they're in substantial trouble at that point.
Okay, so one thing that we know for sure is that by the end of next year, Tesla won't be eating into their Uber Eats or their Uber package or any of the rest of the kind of stuff by the end of next year. Now, by the end of 2027, that could be a whole other game, a whole other story. But I don't think there's any chance that Tesla will care about Uber Eats or Uber packaging in 2026.
I disagree
Oh,
Be
okay.
because let's say they get to 1 million vehicles, right?
Right.
Because cyber cabs and on and on. So 1 million vehicles in the network, and the Robotaxi.
Mhm.
So that means they can do deliveries at night. They can work 24 hours because they're not going to be moving people as much at night, right? So,
So I
but of
have
course,
so I have conceived in my mind of a situation where the car would where you would get notified ahead that the car is now out front, go out and get your package. But
right.
unless you've got an Optimus in there, you're not gonna be able to deliver the package unless you now put a person in there, and now you've kind of defeated the whole the
No,
whole.
no, you can if the car pulls up,
Yep.
right, onto your driveway just in front of your house,
Right.
right, and then you get a notification
Right.
on your phone app.
Okay.
It's outside,
Okay. So that's
right?
you're thinking the same way
So yeah, yeah. So they go out.
and get
Maybe I
it.
did. I wasn't quite listening of it. So basically, you come out. It automatically opens to some chamber, and then you pick out, your package, your delivery,
Right.
right?
Right.
Same thing for them coming up to pick it up. They pull up. The guy with the pizza comes out and
Right.
puts it into
Right.
the thing, and they have some little dispenser thing for whatever
Mhm.
it is that they're doing, right? So I think there's ways to resolve issues of where, because we can walk to the curb, right? It's not the end of the world, right?
Right. Right.
Especially if you're saying, "Oh, I can walk to the curb and it's 30% cheaper,"
Right.
right?
Right.
It would be
Yes.
$20 or something if I don't do it, and it's $15 or $14 if I go walk to the curb,
Sure.
right? So I
Okay.
think,
All right. Yeah. So it could eat into that as well. All right. It could eat into.
and yes, yeah, you can eat into Uber Eats, yes, yeah, yeah. So, the other thing about the structure of Uber, like I said, 60% is North America.
Right.
Their next biggest market is they call it Europe, Africa, Middle East, right? But I'm thinking it's predominantly Europe, and actually, 24% is in major cities like New York, London, San Francisco,
Yeah.
LA, Sao Paulo. There's a lot of concentration structure and then how many vehicles you need. New York has about 14,000, 13,000 medallion taxis,
Hmm.
and then 100,000
Uber.
rideshare,
Right. Sure.
Uber, Lyft, everyone else is in there. So that's the kind of number. And of course, New York is clearly the biggest for that. But, London
Sure.
and other places also are substantial for that. So if we're starting off in Austin, you know, you could be starting to compete against the cream of some stuff if you get into 10,000 to 20,000 vehicles, um, for the major cities, and 5,000, 2,000 to 5,000 for smaller
I
cities. You
think I
get
think
substantial competition.
I think six of the top 10 population cities in the United States are in Texas and California.
Right.
And then if you go to 15, I think you might pick up Phoenix and um, Silicon Valley.
San
That area.
Francisco?
Well,
Yeah,
not San Francisco is small.
Sacramento?
San Jose. I
San
think
Jose.
San Jose might be in the top 15. So you might be looking at half of the cities in the United States that are just in those two states.
Right. So if you get to 100,000, 200,000, you're substantial competition, especially because a 4X multiplier of how many hours you're competing potentially
Right.
with the system. And if you get to 1 million vehicles, you're the equivalent of 5 million Uber drivers. Uber has 7 million, and a
Right.
lot of them are part-time. So, if you get to the core of the 2 million hard driving vehicles or 1 million hard driving vehicles, that's the first tier, which was in the ARK Invest thing of 138, ish, because that's a few years old, 150 billion of the main rideshare market. And we've already established that Uber kind of has the mobility part and then the other doubling it up with packages um, part. So we'll need to move beyond that by 2027 if we're going to go to 5 million vehicles.
Right.
We really need to be at that 60 cents per mile level to compete to get that market of stuff. And then well before that, in 2026, you know, early first half of the year, the pressure on Uber and Lyft is going to be significant. Lyft has
They're like on
five.
they're like at the edge anyway. They're
Wait,
like
wait,
they're
they have like $5.8 billion in revenue, and they have like $10 million in profit.
right.
They're like nothing. They're,
Nothing.
they're constant.
Yeah.
Uber only turned a profit 2 years ago,
Right.
right? So,
So now you're saying that if I understand you right, from a financial standpoint, first of all, you'd be cutting into their revenue,
right,
just their gross revenue, because they wouldn't get as many rides.
yeah,
Second of all, you'd be cutting into as the price comes down, and they're going to have to compete,
right,
because we've talked about this a couple of different times on my channel and and on Herbert's earlier today, is that people are willing to pay more for no driver. So if we actually reduce the cost, if you're charging $1.50 versus $2 a ride and a
mhm,
better experience,
yeah,
then people are just going to be switching over to Tesla like crazy. So
mhm,
you're going to be cutting into the number of rides, and they will be necessarily going to have to drop their price under Tesla in order to have a chance of getting a ride, because people they'd rather have no driver.
right, right. That's potentially there. Although, I think there's different markets. Like certain um, old people or certain other people may be reluctant to adopt the no driver option. So you can retain some, but it's the kind of thing where if it's 50%, right? 50% are prefer, let's say 30% prefer, 30% don't care, 30% the other
Might be
way.
afraid. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can split that up. If they lose big chunks of their market
Yes.
and then they have to cut price even 10%, they're making no money,
Yeah.
right? So then they have to um, make real changes on it, which just goes to my theory that they must buy Teslas,
Yeah.
right? Because, you know, a third to a half or more of the cost structure is the driver.
Right.
So,
And again, they're only offering an app. It's basically an app. That's what the company does. They got an app.
yeah.
And yes, they vet the drivers, they vet the cars to make sure that both of them are safe and whatnot. But why would a driver, once Tesla is up and doing this,
Mhm.
why would a driver stay with Uber if they could sell their car, buy a Tesla, and now make their money while they sit at home and have the Tesla bring them their pizza?
Right. I think that anyone who's really thinking about it, either the company or the individual, would recognize if I still want to be part of this business, I have to shift to the new thing, right?
Yes.
It's like if I have the horse and buggy, I gotta switch to the other thing, otherwise I'm out,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter how big my company is, the switch will happen.
Yeah.
Or and the initial phase where it's not happening, it's becoming uneconomic fast, right? It's already kind of marginal and it
Right.
could become very uneconomic very quickly. So even by, end of this year, Q1 2026, Q2 2026 at the latest, you know, they have a huge problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So they wouldn't be able to hold on to their drivers.
Yeah.
They would be able to hold on to their customers, and they would have to reduce their cost. So ultimately, uh, everybody that I know that I trust and I don't know them personally, but I know from them on X or seeing them on video, that knows the president, the CEO of Uber, says he's brilliant. They say he's, great guy, amazing,
Yep.
amazing guy. So if he's that amazing, I know you and I are really amazing, but if he's that amazing, then he's already thought about all this.
Right.
They've had lots of conversations around the C-suite
Right.
about this.
Right.
So you have to think if he's doing any due diligence at all for his company, if he's doing anything for his stockholders, he's
Yeah.
already on the phone with Elon.
Right.
They travel in the same circles. I mean, these guys
Right.
are, so he's got to already have had the conversation with Elon. Okay, look, we got to talk about what's going to happen next year with this transition.
Right.
When do I get to start buying cars? Are you going to give me a deal? Or
And I don't see from Elon's side why he cuts him a deal. That if there's a flood of people who want to have Tesla cars and want to have Tesla FSD, the pricing is the pricing. Just like they didn't give a deal to Hertz. You want 100,000 cars, you buy 100,000 cars. I don't need to give you a deal because I will sell those vehicles, right? So if I have a capacity for a million more vehicles and I have these used vehicles, you can start buying used vehicles by large numbers, maybe 100,000, 200,000 that are out there. You can buy new vehicles and then you buy FSD. You have to buy FSD for every car. So that goes to our scenario where once it's proven in June, the clock will be ticking. The clock is already ticking, but
yeah,
the clock will be super ticking by Q3, Q4 this year, where it's like, who's going to buy the million vehicles? Uber
yeah,
needs them, but other company, Lyft needs them, right?
yeah.
So do you have the
Waymo's going to need them.
right?
Waymo's going to
Even
need
some like the big sovereign wealth funds or
them.
other things, all kinds of people with money could say, yes, I want to do this business going forward, and then they plop down $35 billion, $45 billion, and they have a million vehicles with Robotaxi.
Right.
And the thing is, not making the move now is not a matter of like, will Tesla cut you a deal? Is that when it's fully working, we've had the the suspicion over the years that when they raised the price to 15,000 for FSD, it was like, hey, we know how
Yeah,
valuable
yeah,
this is,
yeah, yeah.
right? And so they'll raise the price. So doing it now, when it's still $8,000 or whatever, moving fast now is a move. So after the first 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 that are sold, right? Then the demand's starting to go, the lines waiting a month, 2 months, then it's going to be okay. Now we raise the prices. Now it goes to 15,000. Now it goes to 25,000, right? So that's the negotiation that Tesla's going to have. Is when I'm going to raise the prices. The demand is there. Now you guys are in queue. If you don't move fast on it, I'm going to raise prices, which they did before. People don't know.
Sure, sure.
Several years ago, they started raising the prices prematurely, and then they
It
back
didn't
off.
pan out. Yes.
Right.
So, and then Herbert earlier today made a mention, maybe it was you, but I thought it was Herbert who said that Elon has now said that the Airbnb version of the project will not be until the second half of 2026. So I had missed that completely. Did you hear that? Or
I did not hear that.
I didn't hear that either. I'm not sure where that's coming from. And I usually know everything.
Yeah.
No, I mean, sorry, did I say that way? I mean, I usually have pretty good, so I haven't heard that, but I could imagine where it wouldn't be maybe till the first of 2026 while they're doing this toe in the water thing. But I can't figure out why
I,
it would.
I would say even if he did say it now and was thinking maybe now I'm thinking about that, once the data comes in and the rollout happens, that will tell him, when does he activate that.
Right,
They're not, I don't, they have pre-knowledge because they
right,
see, okay, we have version 14 or whatever, we're testing versions 2 months ahead, right? But they don't have the data on here's the actual operations in Austin, here's how many people are getting paid rides. You know, once we're safe enough for, all the employees and blah blah blah, and for these paid services, now we want to let in the network, right? There's data that will tell them when to do that, right? So in terms of like we won't open it up until then. I they may have obviously have a better bracketed range because they know all the details of
Right,
like
right.
other things that have to happen with that. But if things go right, they could go earlier. And maybe it's just a matter they don't want to commit to it yet, right? But things will become more clear Q4 and maybe and by Q1, right? Where they say, oh, yeah, things are going great. Let's open it up, right? I think they've done that before, where they um, let more people um, do certain features of like not touching the wheel, or there was
Oh,
some other thing. I'm trying to remember what it was at the end of last year, where there's certain versions where they said
sure.
um, now we're going to release and go wide earlier because it was just so good, right?
So Kathy Wood said years ago, and other people have said also, why would they ever sell another car, or at least a cyber cab? Why wouldn't they just put them all in their own fleet? So I can understand on the one hand why the people who already own the cars, he's been promising it forever. So
Mhm.
I think he would feel obligated to make those cars available for Airbnb. And obviously, when you buy a new 3Y whatever, you would have the ability to put that in the fleet, I guess. But as far as the cyber cab is concerned, once you've got that first bunch of cars out there and it's working, everything else, they're going to make, like, worst case, $40,000 a year on one cyber cab. I mean, that's when it gets down to like 50 cents a mile or 40 cents a mile. They're going to make like $40,000 a car. That pays for the car in like 3 months.
Mhm.
I can't,
Right.
it's hard to figure why they'd want to sell that. And then if they sell it, maybe they make 10,000 instead of 40,000. Now they'll make
So,
something for the car, but that's
so
a bummer.
my view on that is that they have total control of the terms of the network. They can say, I'm changing the rules, I'm taking a bigger cut, and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
right? They can say who they let in when, right? So if you want to buy a vehicle, it's like I want to wholesale purchase blah, right?
yeah,
So sometimes you sell, a subscription. Sometimes you do. I will buy wholesale. I'll go to Costco and I'll buy 100 units of whatever, right? Um, you know, lights and other things like that, right? So why does Costco want to say, no, you can't buy 100 units, right? Um, you're just buying in bulk, right? That
yeah,
goes to the let some volume purchases be made, right?
right,
So, that's what basically when you buy a vehicle and buy an FSD, if you own it and then you're part of the network, it's just another category of buyer who's, buying bulk. And in terms of their profitability, one, they don't have to profit maximize everything.
right,
Two is that they can say, okay, I'll let you in. I'll let you get a good return of like 10,000, 20,000 per year if it's guaranteed and that kind of stuff. And then, um, I'll still get my cut. I'm saying we're sharing in the
yeah,
the
yeah,
40 to 60,000, right?
right,
I'm going to go from 50% up to 70 when it becomes more
right,
obvious. But the
right,
terms will change as they roll forward, right? Um, so and they do want to change the world. So the fact that everyone's moving, the fact that everyone will commit more capital, it also goes to the whole capex thing, right? If they're the only one owning it, even though it's like um,
I
so profitable operationally, it's like they'll be having so many money printers, semi money printers, Robotaxi money printers, Tesla bot money
Optimus,
printers,
Optimus.
Optimus money printers, right? That you know there still is some aspect of I the by giving it to the world and,
Yeah,
having everyone participate that they can um, still make more money that way. I'd have to
right.
think of some other examples.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, from a purely business standpoint, it's hard to argue with Kathy. I
yeah,
mean, if now again, if the item was costing, it was going to take you 3 years to recover your money
yeah,
or 2 years to recover your money, then you get it. That now you need people to provide capital because you know well, maybe you can raise the capital, but even so, maybe you think that this is a better way, and as long as it's not too crazy. But when you're talking about something that you can pay for with, 3 months of revenue, it's like, it's like a no-brainer. It's like you just do it.
Right.
So anyway, it'll be interesting. It'll be super interesting to see how that plays
So that
out.
goes to the favorability of locations because yes, in the United States it can be that way,
Yeah.
but then you go to Latin America,
Mhm.
where they have, Uber is making 2 billion of their 160 billion or whatever it is. The price in Sao Paulo is like 6 real or
Yeah.
some sorry, 2 real. So that's 30 cents US,
Uh,
35 cents US, right? And so then the economics
China,
start
same
working out not
thing.
as good, right?
Yeah.
Same thing for Asia,
Right.
Vietnam, Philippines, and stuff like that.
Sure.
So there's locations where there's a lot of miles and then in the rural areas of the United States and Canada, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
The economics don't work out as well. So then you'd want people in the network.
Ah,
So
yeah.
as you're in the fringes, right, away from the prime markets of New York and LA, San Francisco, Houston, Dallas,
Right.
whatever, where
Right. Right.
there's
Right.
those
Right.
prime markets, right? But then other parts, and then even there, it's like there could be some parts of like Long Island or like Queens and something like that, where it's like, yeah, this is really a marginal territory, right? So then having other people it's like I can justify building, you know, multi-story hotels in, whatever places, but then for the Airbnb, you get to the sparse areas where it's
Right.
like it doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah. In fact, I can remember I lived in a place called Excelsior Springs, Missouri
Yeah.
for the summer,
Yeah.
and they had a cab stand. And
Mhm.
the folks that owned the cab company there had like two cars.
Right.
That's all they could justify in that town.
Yeah. So then you get to places where it's not $30,000, $40,000
Right.
per year return.
Right.
It's, 10,000 like that,
Right.
right? So it goes to that. And then again, they can always cap things and limit it where it's like, okay, making 40,000, but you will make 15 or 20. It'd be a good deal,
Right.
but we're going to take more of a cut. Yeah.
And it might be more like an Airbnb thing because your car won't always be in service.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that to make the assumption that every scenario means that, hey, we always want to own it is not correct.
Yeah, so now let's just for fun, if we flip it on the head again, because people might forget just how much money we're talking about here. We're talking about it now in terms of the competition, but in terms of the raw numbers, if you're talking $40,000 per vehicle per year of pure profit, and that's
Mhm.
when you get the price down. That's not when the price is $2 a mile or $1.50 a mile. We're talking about it's down to 50 cents a mile. If you're talking about $40,000 for Tesla on the fleet-owned vehicles, and if they
Mhm.
only have 1 million vehicles, yeah, I think that's 40 billion, isn't it?
Yep. Yes, it is. Yeah. And
That's
and they
40 billion
made
in profit,
right. Yeah,
and the
and they
company's
made like
making,
$8 billion in profit, whatever, on their
yeah,
on the cars last year,
right.
2024.
And then if you have another billion, if you have another million out there that are on Airbnb,
Mhm.
which should be probably by 2026, maybe early 2027, they should have at least 1 million Airbnb cars as well. And if those are making 10, is 10 fair?
Mhm.
10 is
Mhm.
probably fair. So
Yeah.
that it's not nearly as much. It's only another
Mhm.
10 billion, which
Right.
is again, slightly more than the company makes now.
Right.
So it's pretty significant money.
Right. And by the fleet awakening and them increasing the production of cybercabs, getting to 5 million vehicles in North America, already at 7 million worldwide, that you could have like, 15, 20 million vehicles in 2027, and all of them can be doing robotaxi. And
Yeah.
we've discussed before that if you don't want to do robotaxi, someone else will want to
Be-
do robotaxi,
If
right? So then the vehicles will shift over to those people willing to pay for it. Not all of them, but a lot of them will do
right,
that. So that fleet awakening moment, which Elon talked about, the greatest asset value
right,
increase ever, is when the entire fleet can go. The entire fleet in North America, the entire fleet worldwide can awaken and start becoming money printers and changing the whole thing of like cars being depreciating assets and all that kind of stuff.
So, and then have you had a chance to look at all? I mean, I know there's really no concrete information that we have other than what BYD has put out, but BYD did join up with keep deep. I forget their doggone
DeepSeek, DeepSeek.
DeepSeek. They joined up with DeepSeek, so we know DeepSeek's a real player, according to everybody we know.
Right.
Trust, they're a
Hmm.
serious player,
Yeah.
and BYD joined up with them, and BYD is a serious player. And so they now have a level two, level three, whatever ADA system, which they say is they claim
Better
BYD
than autopilot. Yeah.
is autopilot, which is really good.
Hmm.
They're claiming it's better than the Tesla autopilot.
Yeah. Not
Um,
FSD, autopilot. Yeah.
Not yes, autopilot. So do you know any more than that at this point? Have you heard?
So this goes to a tweet post by Gary Black, and then Warren Regler commented about that. Where Gary Black again said, one, he doesn't believe Tesla can solve robotaxi in the next little while. And then even if they do, then any car
Every
company with millions of cars and 50,000 GPUs will be able to copy it in 3 months. So I commented about that. Let's unpack that. It's not a million of the cars, it's a million of robotaxi capable cars,
right,
right? Of which actually Tesla has some cars that are not robotaxi capable fully now. They're FSD really good capable, but the hardware three need to be replaced for, what, a million of the 7 million cars
something
is something that they have to address, right? So who else has chips in the cars and the sensors for how they're going to do it, right? So I think maybe you have Xiaomi that or yeah that has or XPeng may have a few 100,000 cars that have the cameras and the chips,
right,
but do they have a chip that's hardware 4 capable?
right, right,
I don't know, right? But no one else has millions of purely robotaxi capable cars,
right.
right? And then everyone else, like, oh, Mercedes-Benz, they released Drive Pilot, which has, all these LiDAR sensors and can do level 3 driving in bumper to bumper traffic in on highways, and it can't change lanes.
Right.
It can just follow the car in front, right? And then, okay, now you can take your hands off because you're following in front of the next car. I can't change lanes. If I change lanes, to disengage and change lanes. So you have to pay $2,500 for that. The regular Mercedes doesn't have it. You have to pay $2,500. They did not do what Elon did of saying, I'm going to put $15,000 to $3,000 worth of hardware and equipment into every vehicle because
Mhm.
I'm planning for the future.
Mhm.
No one else has done that. Only I think some China players started to do it last year or the year before,
Right,
right? Some of the earliest ones. BYD didn't do it. Two
right.
years ago, BYD said, um, all this autonomy stuff, don't need it at all. And then suddenly they hired 100,000 engineers, done all these deals, and it's going to start doing it. This all these three levels of driver assist. But is it driver assist um, robotaxi capable vehicles? Probably, 100 tops,
Yeah.
so it's trillion operations. So probably hardware 4 level, but that's starting now, right? So now you have to roll them out. So within a year to get out um, 1.5 million, 3 million vehicles, right? 1 year to get them. And then you got to drive them. And
Mhm.
then you have to get all your miles. So then you're looking at 2, 3 years down the road when
Mhm.
they will have scaled miles to where Tesla is now,
Right,
right? And
right.
then they would, yes, then they would train the thing, but not 3 months because the vehicles with the stuff aren't there,
And
right?
that'll be in China. That won't be in the United States.
That'll be in China only, right?
Yes, right.
And the China market is not as good because
Yes,
you're competing against um, drivers already at 50 cents
right,
because people can work lower
right,
cost over there,
right.
right?
Still might want to get rid of the driver, but
So you still want to get rid of the driver. There's reasons why you want to do that, right?
yes, yes. So I guess my conclusion always comes down. It seems like every time I have this conversation with somebody, and as we get more and more layers and more into the details, it always comes down to if we end up with 25% of the worldwide market, it'll be fine.
Yeah. But one is looking at what get the best part of the market
Yes,
because
yes,
it's North America and
Right.
Europe, China will get a chunk of it. So it looks like, 60 to 80% is going to be of the revenue
Right.
is going to go to Tesla. And the other thing is that doing it with semi trucks that are electric
Right.
is
Even
e- even better business, right? And that involves um, better batteries, better drives, and stuff like that. That again is not no one else is anywhere close to copying that, right?
yeah.
So that robo truck business, 20 million robo trucks, is and actually you may be able to replace the 20 million large trucks now with 6 to 8 million um, of the future autonomous trucks because of the high utility you would
24
get
hours.
from it. Um, but the other thing would be that once that happens, the economy will grow,
Yeah.
and then there will be more stuff. Anyway, so Tesla, just like Apple, will get the lion's share of the profit of these new
Right.
world-changing businesses.
Yes, indeed. And what you have to understand is that Brian is a lot younger than me, and so he still has that competition going where he wants to have all of the business. I'm happy with 25%. It's all good.
I'm not saying it's competition. I'm saying I'm trying to be precise in my prediction about where it's going to
Oh,
go.
I see. I see. Yes.
I have to be precise in my prediction. I'm saying yes, if you had 25%, it would be whatever, but I just don't see how someone else gets 75%,
It
right?
does it does look hard.
If you get 70% maybe of miles, I guess, if China says, okay, we're carving the world up the way we did with that, and then you
Right.
get miles wise, you're there. But if your miles are 5 times cheaper,
Yes.
but then if you go to um um what is it? The we're thinking they're more all lower cost because there's no human component, right? Then we could converge on the pricing.
Yeah, and you could, Kathy Wood in her analysis, I think she gets down to the cost, including depreciation and everything else being like 12 cents per mile.
Mhm.
You could imagine that the amount of the cost of the car could go less than the 16,000 that people are kind of thinking of. And you could eventually give the electricity for free because you've got a solar unit, you've got a battery and the whole thing. So you could be getting under 12 cents at some point. It can really be crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But by then, you're in the 2030s or something like that, and think that,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, getting down to like a 10 cent per kilowatt hour battery, sorry,
yeah.
$10 per kilowatt
A lot
hour
of-
battery, that's possible.
Yeah,
In 3 years getting to 2030, that's possible. So, the costs on this can really go down as this technology advances. Yeah.
exciting,
Okay.
crazy, crazy times.
Yeah. So we'll talk about this more next time. Thanks for joining and talk to everyone next time. Thanks.